Right everyone, it is Finn here, welcome back to a brand new video where today we're going to be talking about Ghanaian superstar Mohammed Kudus. Because looking at the 22-year-old Ajax midfielder, he's definitely a man with an eye for goal, the versatility of a madman, and links to Europe's most elite clubs. And of course today we're going to be talking about how Mohammed Kudus can dominate European football. Because there's no doubt African football's definitely grown over the last few years, with the most recent likes of Mo Salah, Sadio Mane, and most recently Victor Osimhen making names for themselves. But of course, in my mind, looking at the likes of the 22-year-old Ajax midfielder, there's no doubt in my mind that he is the next big African superstar.
I said it last time I was on it, he's the best football player in the world.
So of course, in today's video, we're going to be talking about Mohammed Kudus, what he's achieved over the last year or two, and how he can reach his full potential as a player. As we know, at 22 years old, he's still got 2 years left on his contract at Ajax, but he has been linked to Europe's most elite clubs. Over the last year, he's been linked to Manchester United, Liverpool, PSG, and even Barcelona.
Kind of a big deal.
So of course, with the season coming to an end, I've got no doubt in my mind that he will be in a big money transfer, which is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Now, of course, as I said, guys, I do want to do a lot more African football content this year. So of course, if you do enjoy this kind of content, if you are a Black Stars fan, a Mohammed Kudus fan, or whoever you end up supporting, please don't forget to subscribe down below, as I do look to make more content like this. But of course, unless you're Patrick the Star and you've been living under a rock for the last year, looking at Mohammed Kudus over the last year, he has been absolutely phenomenal in the Eredivisie this season. He's gotten 11 goals and 2 assists in 26 games. In the Champions League, he's gotten 4 goals and 2 assists in 6 Champions League games, including a stellar performance versus Liverpool. Of course, 6 goal contributions in 6 Champions League games isn't bad whatsoever.
I mean, it's alright,
And of course, looking at the World Cup, getting 2 goals in 3 games for the Black Stars of Ghana in the biggest stage in world football. All of that while playing as a winger on both the left and right side in the centre forward position, and even as an attacking midfielder. As I said, looking at numbers like that, Mohammed Kudus is an absolute beast of a player. And of course, to be only 22 years old, he's still got his entire future ahead of him. Now, of course, as I said, he's been linked to some of the biggest clubs in the world, but how much can they expect to pay for the likes of Mohammed Kudus?
Shut up and take my money.
Well, of course, according to Transfermarkt, they said that he would be worth around 30 million euros.
And there seems to be no sign of intelligent life anyway.
Which, of course, mentioning the statistics that I've just given to you guys, I cannot see him going for less than 70 million pounds. If he ends up going for 30 million pounds, I mean, it really shows you that there is some sort of European tax there. Mohammed Kudus is without a doubt a gigantic superstar. But of course, linking to these big clubs, how would he really reach his full potential at those clubs, and which club would he suit best? Well, of course, looking at if Mohammed Kudus joined the likes of Manchester United, I actually think this might be one of the best options for him. As we know, looking at Manchester United, he has worked under Erik ten Hag before at Ajax, and I do think that there is this position for him. As we know, there's a lot of stress on the likes of Bruno Fernandes in that attacking midfield position, as he really is Manchester United's only attacking midfield option. Obviously, since the likes of Christian Eriksen has been picking up injuries, and he does play back in a further box-to-box midfielder role. I mean, there's so much stress on Bruno Fernandes, he even has to play as a right midfielder sometimes. Therefore, I think bringing in a player like Mohammed Kudus takes a lot of pressure off of Bruno Fernandes, and I actually think he's a very similar player to Bruno Fernandes.
We're not so different, you and I.
Obviously, in terms of goal scoring, as I said, Mohammed Kudus has gotten 11 Eredivisie goals this season, and it takes a lot of pressure off of a player like Marcus Rashford, who has been scoring the bulk of the goals for the Red Devils. As I said, Mohammed Kudus, 22 years old, if Manchester United had to spend a lot of money on them, they are building a project under Erik ten Hag, and I can definitely see them do so. I mean, if they can spend 80 million pounds on the likes of Anthony, I can definitely see them spending a very similar fee on Mohammed Kudus, especially since Erik ten Hag knows the player so well. Of course, he's also been linked to another Premier League giant, of course, the big rival of Manchester United with Liverpool, which I'm not going to lie, this might sound like a weird comment to say, but I think he would be the perfect Bobby Firmino replacement.
Why would you say something so controversial yet so brave?
As you know, the Brazilian superstar had played at Anfield for 8 years, obviously starting off as an attacking midfielder, but really settling into that centre forward or false 9 position at Liverpool. And of course, once again, keeping an excellent record versus big clubs, especially versus Arsenal, scoring 8 goals in 8 games as we saw the other day. Once again, I think Mohammed Kudus is a player who would fit that system perfectly. As we know, Liverpool have really struggled in that attacking area over the last year or two, especially in that attacking midfield role. So whether he wants to play as an attacking midfielder midfielder, or even as that centre forward, as that centre of attention. I could see that fit Liverpool's system perfectly. Now, of course, as I said, he's also been linked to the likes of both PSG and Bayern Munich and Barcelona.
It's worldwide.
Some of the biggest clubs in Europe. Now, of course, looking at Barcelona personally, I don't see that happening. Obviously, with 2 years left on Mohammed Kudus' contract, he would be worth a lot of money. And of course, Barcelona is struggling financially at the moment. I just don't see that happening. Of course, looking at PSG, I just don't think the system works for him at PSG. As we know, Kudus, as I said, plays in those wide attacking areas or in those central attacking areas, which I think PSG are absolutely stacked with. In terms of the midfield, they play with a very flat 5 midfield system, and I don't see Mohammed Kudus really fitting there unless he's given an attacking midfield role, which PSG just don't end up using. Of course, the only way I could see him fitting into PSG is if they end up selling Neymar and he plays in that left wing side, or even as an attacking midfield in some of their Champions League games. But as I said, at the end of the day, I just don't think it fits the likes of Mohammed Kudus. And looking at PSG winning 8 out of the last 10 French league seasons, once again, in terms of a competitive career, I just don't think it's the correct move for Mohammed Kudus to reach the top level that he potentially could be. He needs to be a player who moves to a very competitive league and plays for the best trophies in Europe. Of course, also linked to the likes of Bayern Munich over the last year or two, which whether he could replace the likes of a player like Thomas Müller in his centre forward role or even as a midfield role, I think he'll be absolutely brilliant there. But as we know, once again, Bayern Munich winning the last 11 league titles in the Bundesliga. Once again, Mohammed Kudus is a player who deserves a more competitive league. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for Mohammed Kudus and what I potentially think is the best option for him out there. As I said, he's one of the best attacking midfielders out in world football over the last year or two. And looking at him, I do think Manchester United is the best option for him.
You're joking. Not another one?
As I said, in terms of his style of play, in terms of him scoring goals, in terms of him getting assists, I do think that is a system who works better for him. Obviously, under a previous manager who did get a lot out of him. Once again, maybe he didn't have the best numbers under Erik ten Hag, but he was still young, he was still learning, and now that he's got a few more things in his locker, I do think Erik ten Hag is the manager to get the best out of him. And as I said, working under a very informed striker like Marcus Rashford, working next to creative players like Bruno Fernandes and Christian Eriksen, I do think it is the perfect move. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to tell me in the comment section down below, where do you think Mohammed Kudus could move to next? Because I genuinely believe as an attacking midfielder, with the numbers he's had over the last year, he is the next African player to take over Europe. I know a lot of people will be focusing on the likes of Victor Osimhen as a striker, but once again, as a creative outlet, I think Mohammed Kudus is the next big thing. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you did enjoy this video. If you did do so, please do like and subscribe down below, as it does help the channel grow, and we are still on the road to 10,000 subscribers. Of course, I'll see you all very, very soon. This has been Finn, FYNN. Until next time, cheers.